Well, hello and welcome to another Faith, Philosophy and Life with me, Mr. Shelton. It's great that you're joining me again. I do hope you're well. And if you're watching this at home, I do hope that you're staying safe as well. Behind me then is a famous image that I'm sure you've seen before. I'd like you to have a quick think. What's going on in this image? Okay, so hopefully you've identified this is about the Last Supper of Jesus, because that is in fact what we're thinking about today. We're thinking about what happened in the Last Supper. So our learning objective is to explore the key events of the Lord's Supper, which is another phrase for the Last Supper, or what you might know today in churches we use Mass or Holy Communion or Eucharist. The Last Supper is the first time this occurred with Jesus and the 12. It's going to be a good outcome if you can retell the main events of the Last Supper. It's going to be great if you can explain what the Last Supper shows Christians think about Jesus. Remember, we're thinking about people of faith, and Jesus clearly is the example of that we need to reflect. And even better if you can say which part of the Last Supper you think is most important in your own opinion and why you think that. During today's session then, we're going to do a little bit of grid research. Then you're going to look at some paintings, and then we'll do a little bit of creative writing as well. In the links below, you will find a grid that looks something like this, and or you can draw it out in your book if you'd rather. And you'll also find a link to all of these biblical passages. So you don't have to Google them today. They're all linked below for you. So if you go into the description below, you'll find everything you need to there. What the idea is that you're going to read each of those biblical passages and just summarize it into bullet points, couple of points, 3 points for each of them. And that will go through the key event of the Lord's Supper and what happened during the Lord or the Last Supper as well. This is going to take you about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. So I want you to see what the similarities are and what the differences are as well between them. So give me a pause, have a look at the bottom, and I'll see you in 10 minutes or so. Perfect. So hopefully now you can retell the main events of the Last Supper, and we're now going to start thinking about what the Last Supper shows Christians about Jesus, and we're going to look at a little bit of painting as well for this. Okay, so we're going to look at this particular painting by Sir Jacoda. Okay, and this is a very famous picture, and let's move that there. So I'm going to just go through some of this for you. And if you want to make any notes while I'm on, then just pause me to do so. This is really a bit more of a reflection activity as well. So I want you to focus on Jesus. Focus on the image of Jesus. What do you think his position signifies, the way that he's lying? What does his position signify? Can you see his face? And why do you think that the painter shows Jesus' face in the way that he does? What might that represent? Let's look at Peter now. Look at his face and his hands. What do you think that he's feeling or thinking? So focus on the table. I wonder what you can see on it. I wonder what the artist is prompting you to remember. And I wonder what connections you can make between what Jesus is doing and the objects on the table as well. You see, I want you to think about the story that we've looked at today, the Last Supper, and think about that picture as well. What kind of love is being shown in the story or the picture? Is it the kind of love that we as humans easily show? And how can we display that kind of love as well? Think about one example in the world that would be changed if we demonstrated that sort of love. That kind of brings us to the end of this reflection. You might want to make a few notes about the picture, or make some notes about things that you've learned during that activity. But I think it's really important that sometimes we just take stock and we just reflect and to think a little bit. So we've done our grid, we've done our painting, and we've done a little bit of reflection as well. So we're going to go on to a little bit of creative writing. So this is your main task now. I want you to write a story as if you were there at the Last Supper. I want you to think about the main events. I want you to see if you can fuse it all together, everything we've looked at and thought about and felt today. Think about the reflection as well. And try and create a little bit of writing. I know some of you are brilliant at your writing. Some of you do absolutely loads on that. So let's spend half an hour doing some creative writing about the Last Supper of Jesus. So let me just recap before we do. We said it'd be good if we could retell the main events of the Last Supper. Hopefully this will really help consolidate that. Great if you can explain what the Last Supper shows Christians about Jesus, and even better if you can say which part of the Last Supper is the most important in your opinion and why. So you might put that into your work there as well. So I'm going to leave it there for today. Thanks very much for your time. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe, wash hands, God bless. And hopefully I'll see you soon. And let's get on with that. Remember to send everything through to your teachers as well, please.